Coming up, our first session in this episode is a fireside chat on the changing face of technology services, which will cover different aspects of how our IT services sector is looking to transform and reimagine their business models. Chairing this chat is Noshir Kaka, Senior Partner, McKinsey. Noshir co-leads technology, media, and telecommunications practice globally. He's also been the founding member of McKinsey's Global Outsourcing and Offshoring Practice and the Business Technology Office in India. Noshir will be first joined by Salil Parekh, CEO in Infosys. Salil took over as CEO in 2018, and as part of his role, he sets and evolves the strategic direction for the company and its portfolio of offerings, while nurturing a strong leadership team to drive its execution. After Salil, Noshir will be joined by Thierry Delaporte, CEO and Managing Director of Wipro. With 27 years of experience in the IT services industry, Thierry brings strategic insights to Wipro's leadership team and a deep operational knowledge of driving business growth, furthering partnerships, and leading cross-cultural teams. Over to you, Noshir.
Good evening and welcome, at least from India, on the first day of NASSCOM's NTLF 2022. We have a fantastic session lined up for you on the changing face of tech services in India. And my name is Noshir Kaka. I lead our tech, media, and telecom practice at McKinsey. And it is my incredible pleasure to have two wonderful friends and, frankly, giants in the industry join me for what is going to be a fascinating session over the next 30 to 40 minutes. I first have Salil Parekh, CEO of Infosys, joining me, giving us his perspectives, his ideas, his provocative views. And then I'll be joined by Thierry Delaporte, CEO of Wipro, who will join me and we'll equally have a conversation there. With that, let me turn to my friend Salil and ask the first question. Salil, really welcome. It's wonderful to have you join us at NASSCOM's incredible stage. We really hope at some point this will not be digital and it'll be actually in person and we can see each other. But I wanted to start off with just a simple question. I mean, the last 2 years, if you were thinking back from January 2020, you could not have a more different picture today than in terms of what we've gone through in the last 2 years than any of us could have ever predicted. And probably many of our predictions, at least my predictions, went completely in the opposite direction. As you look forward to the next decade of technology, or the decade as people are calling it, what would be your most provocative, counterintuitive thoughts or predictions for what lies ahead for us in the next 10 years?
So first, thanks, Noshir, and thanks to NASSCOM for inviting me. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be part of this panel. You're absolutely right. I think what we've seen over the last couple of years, the changes that have come, there was no way in March 2020 we could have seen this. And frankly, the way things have changed in the tech world, it's quite remarkable what we're seeing. Having said that, what we see now going ahead, first, at Infosys, we've been extremely fortunate to see a huge change. We've made a tremendous focus and investments in the areas of cloud and digital, and a big capability on automation, a lot of work on reskilling, and something called One Infosys, which is driving our future. And I think that's going to continue in a really dramatic way as we look ahead. Large companies are spending more and more on digital transformation, and we are right at the center of it with what we've built in something called Cobalt, which is focused on the cloud, all the cloud capabilities in there. So cloud is a real vector which is changing everything that we can see in the future. The second is we have extreme emphasis, I think all our clients do, on what individuals, what people, what all of the employees are doing, and what needs to be done to make sure that they're skilled for what's coming in the future. That there's a huge reskilling revolution. We've built a platform called Lex, but that is critical for what our clients are looking for in what goes on. And the third is a theme which is for large digital transformations, which is what our clients are looking for. They need all of the capabilities to work together, many of them within the company, but many times with partners. For example, if you look at large cloud transformation, and if it's in the private cloud area, Infosys can do something with clients, but there are many partners who have private cloud components which need to come together. So there's a concept of one Infosys or one team that has to work together to make this happen. And with all of those, we see today a very good runway in terms of growth in the future. And I'm hugely optimistic for that.
Fantastic. Fantastic to hear that, Salil. I think it's indeed impressive what you've done in a short period of time at Infosys. And I want to pick up on one of those themes that you mentioned, which is this entire cloud transformation. I mean, every time it seems like we turn our back for a couple of quarters, there's another 10 billion added on to one of the hyperscalers, right? I mean, the latest numbers, I couldn't believe it. Somebody was telling me that Amazon is at a run rate, AWS is at a run rate of 70 billion, thereabouts, which is just staggering when you just think about the scale of that. I mean, how do you think of both partnering with these hyperscalers and in particular, sort of, how does it affect, the services business that you do, both positive and negatively?
So there, from my perspective, really, it's a huge opportunity, and it's really positive because what is going on the cloud, if you sort of decompose it, we are seeing a lot of traction on public cloud, and there's, as you shared, extremely impressive numbers. There's a very strong business also on private cloud, and we are very much part of it, working with partners. There's yet another business in the cloud, which you know very well, on the SaaS partners. And there are a number of good players with strong traction in the market, which we are partnering with. And then there's a component which is essentially building cloud native or new applications for clients on a platform as a service, the PaaS capability. What we've done and what I think the industry is looking at is bringing all of that together. And our Cobalt capability looks at public, private, SaaS, and cloud native and drives all of that for a cloud transformation. So there's a huge positive, and that's actually a massive runway also for the future in terms of what client spend is going to look like. There, what we see is deep capabilities need to be built in these areas. We built 300 industry templates, about 30,000 objects within Cobalt, and that's what's driving the traction. And all of that is positive from our perspective because it's built on a partnership model where we are working jointly, whether it's with the large hyperscalers, with the private cloud players, with the SaaS players, or there are various PaaS platforms which need different agile development, which we're working on. So all in all, cloud is very strong driver for what clients are transforming to.
No, and it's incredible, right? You talk about the hyperscalers on one side, the SaaS companies on the other, the own sort of multiple units, I'm sure, within Infosys or any of these companies that have to come together and actually retool themselves and align to actually provide a single face to a client. How is that? How did you manage to do this transformation? Because at one level, in the old world, if I might say that, we were used to a single client partner or a single sort of person sort of pulling everything together, largely from an internal perspective. And now you've got multiple channels, multiple products, massive partnerships. How did you actually manage to do this transformation on the front office or on the sales side?
So there, you're absolutely right. I think the complexity and the number of players that are involved has gone up. So what we are doing is building capability. There is no one person who will have that, but there's a group of individuals who work with clients to help them design and then execute the cloud transformation and bringing in these various partners. We have a very active program which works with these partners on a day-to-day basis to keep up to speed of what are the changes, because the speed of innovation is very fast. So to make sure that we ourselves are close to it. And I am also spending personally significant amount of time, as we do with clients, but also with partners, to make sure that we are with them as they go to clients for large programs. So you're absolutely right. There's a huge change in how we're serving our clients with larger capabilities, not sort of one person who has the knowledge or the access. It's a broader base of team with leveraging partnerships across the organization.
Fantastic. And also, I think one of the things that we're seeing, and you spoke about it, is kind of the SaaS revolution, if you like, both across the world, but also particularly in India. One only seems to have to open the paper every week, and there seems to be a new unicorn of some nature or sort, right? And we ourselves, as McKinsey, have said that we think that we could see the SaaS, B2B SaaS industry around tech services be worth almost $1 trillion in the coming decade, equivalent to what the IT services industry did in about 20 or 30 years. It's an incredible growth. But do you see that both as the opportunity? Because for example, if I take software, Infosys with Finacle has been one of the leaders for many years. So how do you see that the software part of your business evolving? And how do you see the partnerships with the SaaS players, particularly the Indian SaaS players coming out of India who have global ambitions?
So both of those dimensions, Noshir, are very critical. First on Finacle. So Finacle today is a fully cloud SaaS business for us. It's a nice business within Infosys. We are now getting traction with clients outside of our traditional base. We have clients in the North American market. We have clients in the European market, and of course, a strength that we had all over in the Indian market, Asian market, and other markets. And very soon, this is going to become more and more important and a larger part of Infosys. We've transformed the business internally. We put in capabilities which allow it to function essentially on any cloud. And it's also very much a SaaS-driven approach. There are different modules that we are building out. So Finacle's really a fantastic opportunity for Infosys. The partnership with the SaaS companies in India is a huge opportunity. So there are phenomenal innovators in the business, as you described, the opportunity for them in this market and well regarded. We have very good relationships with those innovators. We have an innovation fund that we set up some years ago, which has a good link in the ecosystem, even if it's not invested in all of those. And so with those partnerships, we are ready when they're working with large enterprises, because different SaaS companies have different profile of clients they're working with. Many of them are working with small and medium. Some of them are working with large. We are ready to work with them as they work with the clients that we're working with.
Fantastic. And do you see if I remember one of our old industry veterans, I think this was attributed to him, Mr. F.C. Kohli, for years had said that, what we do in services today will become software tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Do you see that in your portfolio, which is that once something is done repetitively or a service that has been provided, you're actually able to convert it to software, either a piece of code or a SaaS product, and that is becoming more and more a source of competitive differentiation, even for the services firms?
No, absolutely. I mean, Finacle is a great example. We have another example in Equinox. So Equinox is something which is not well known outside. It's an e-commerce platform we built, and is getting tremendous traction with all of our clients in that space. Very strong growth, and it's something we will be talking more and more about. So these are platforms we're building up. We have another platform in insurance called McKinsey, which is growing very well. We have a platform on mortgages. So our approach is first services, then platform, and then that converts more and more into software. But the platforms are more repeatable in the way that they work with client situations and are focused on a specific area. We have internally a platform council which drives these things and makes these more and more real for clients. And Equinox, as I shared, is one example of what we're going to start to see on the e-commerce side.
Fantastic. I'm going to turn now to one of the challenges that I think you're facing. I'm facing certainly in our profession, which is talent, right? Which is we are going through probably the greatest talent crunch that the industry has ever faced, that we've seen, at least I've seen in my life. And so there's two parts to that question. One is, how do you think about talent as a competitive advantage on one side? And what do you do to actually strengthen the brand of Infosys and actually attract the right talent? And two, what are you doing to compete or to stay in this incredible war for talent that we're doing just to keep the adequate headcount and the talent that you need to fulfill your growth ambitions?
So there, Noshir, I think you're absolutely right. Talent is a big differentiator. And at Infosys, to give you one example, we will recruit 55,000 college graduates in this financial year, which will end in a couple of months. We think we will recruit that or higher number next year. Our approach has always been to be the best training provider. So we have a comprehensive training approach when college graduates join between 6 and 12 weeks. And here they're getting trained on all of our distinct methodologies, our approach to what we do, for example, on Cobalt, on the digital capabilities, and making sure that they become ready quickly for being productive on projects. So that is the key really to what we want to do with people and talent, is make sure first we are bringing in people. Now, the environment, so there's 55,000, 52,000 is in India, 3,000 outside India. The environment in India is massive, as you know very well. The availability of college graduates is huge. Large number of engineering graduates, large number of science graduates. We're recruiting from both, and that is driving all of this intake. Then the training, which is a big differentiator to make sure they're ready. The next piece is what we call reskilling. What we want to make sure, unlike some of our peers, is to reskill all of our employees and make them more and more with their careers ready for what they can do with the new technologies, whether it's cloud, whether it's data analytics, whether it's AI, cybersecurities, IoT, and so on. So that's their focus of the reskilling. And then we have an approach where there's more and more engagement with our employees. For example, of course, during the time of COVID, enabling the safety of all of our employees, enabling work from home. We've also set up situations where there's tremendous flexibility our employees have now as people are coming back on how they can work in the office and work from home. But many other areas, working with employees on their skilling, on their compensation, on their benefits, to make sure that their engagement with the company is high and they are learning and progressing at a fast speed within the company. And if they're getting those sort of exciting projects with our growth, our growth guidance for this year is 20%, it's just an incredible place for employees to be. And we are fortunate that that's happening at this time, and hopefully they will continue to be with us in the future.
Wow, 20% is like enormous for a company of the size of Infosys. So unbelievable. I want to end, Salil, if I can, on there are going to be thousands of people, young folks, as you said, you're hiring 55,000 people this year itself. There are going to be, hundreds and thousands of young people coming out of colleges and schools in India and all over the world. I know on a personal note, both our children are probably in the second year of college together. What message do you have for, if someone was graduating or close to graduating from colleges in the near future? You spoke about reskilling. What are the kinds of skills that they should really focus on that will help their career through the next 20 years?
I think of course, very well with everything that you're looking at. I think from what we see, the opportunity in front of college graduates is massive. And I'm sure we're seeing that with your children, my children right now, as you referenced. If they're interested in tech, the opportunity set for Infosys and in the tech world generally are huge. Today, the sorts of work that we are doing with clients is just incredible. The key really for college graduates as they're coming out is to be aware that their skills are going to need refreshing much faster than people who've come 10, 20 or longer years before. In the past, what could be a 10, 15-year sort of a runway to a skill now is going to be a 3 to 5 year runway. So maybe the most important thing to keep in mind is that you have to constantly learn new things. And that itself is a skill maybe to keep in mind. And as college graduates come out, that plus if there's an interest in tech, that the tech world is going well, but equally other areas are doing extremely well as well. Even at Infosys, we are recruiting people who are design specialists, not tech related at all, and working on designing of how technology is going to work. And across the board, there are many other areas of importance, but maybe keeping in mind the point about reskilling every few years. And so keeping an open mind to that will help them as they progress.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was a fantastic set of discussions with Salil. I mean, it is quite impressive to see a company, as I said, of that size, looking so positively, growing at this rate, hiring 55,000 people. And also what you spoke about the industry, right, which is, through this incredible time of crisis and uncertainty, how the industry has actually changed itself and come back even stronger to a decade ahead of us, which is looking incredibly bright and promising if we can keep up with the talent crunch that we're all going through. Thank you so much for joining us, Salil. It's been incredibly fun to have you on this particular part of the program.
Thanks, Noshir. It was just wonderful to connect with you and looking forward to catching up in person very soon.
Well, that was a fantastic session with Salil, and I think equally anticipated as a session, we have Thierry Delaporte joining us from the Wipro campus. Thierry, we are delighted to have you, and we are so excited to hear some of your thoughts on some of the questions that Salil talked about. How talent is a competitive weapon. His thinking on the SaaS landscape. And of course, the always present opportunity on cloud and digital services in general. So Thierry, I wanted to start off a little bit with kind of asking you to do an impossible task, which at least I failed several times in doing, which is, if you look forward into the next decade, right? I mean, we've just seen enormous changes in the last 2 years, let alone the last 10 years. But if I ask you to look forward into the next decade ahead of us, what are some of the fundamental changes you would see happening to the technology services and tech landscape in general?
Noshir, thank you, and thank you for having me with you today. You're right. It's a $1 billion question. It's a question I should never try to respond. Imagine if you asked me this question in January 2020. what am I going to tell you, right? But anyway, a couple of reflections. First, no doubt, these are exciting times. And it only promises to get more challenging and complex, frankly. We love a bit of problem solving at Wipro, so this is energizing for us, no doubt. My view is that, companies across industries and in almost all markets, they are accelerating their effort to become digital businesses. The fact is that becoming digital has less to do with technology and a lot more to do with business processes, business mindset. You see, you're becoming digital to solve consumer problems and business problems, not technology problems. Technology is the problem solver here. It's the enabler. So my view is that's going to happen more rapidly in the coming years, in the decade, as you're calling it, right? The second point I'd make is around business longevity. You see, I've read somewhere that back in the early 2000s, the average tenure of companies on the S&P 500 was 24 years, right? This is expected to shrink from 24 to just 12 years by 2027. So divided by 2. So Noshir, at this rate, 50% of the companies may either go bankrupt, get acquired, or simply cease to exist unless they keep up. So how do you keep up when staying relevant is harder than ever, right? This is where technology, in my mind, plus insight, plus radical thinking must come together in the decade. This is where innovation comes in. What the next decade of tech will require is, I insist, radical thinking. This means speed and creative innovation. This means reinventing our approach to talent. This means investment in constant improvements, investment in bold, inorganic approaches. The way things have been done in the past in our industry and frankly elsewhere will need to radically shift. This is my conviction. The third point, you ask about 3 points. I'll try to come with a third point. I want to make is that how we've run our lives and our businesses in the past, we need to change fundamentally, right? Companies can no longer exist as profit center, profit makers. I am convinced that we must become more efficient. We must become more sustainable and more responsible. To me, Noshir, the IT services industry, especially between the massive conglomerates that make up this industry, Wipro included, and the customers we collectively serve, we have an enormous footprint and reach. And in my view, the decade must be one where we all choose to use this power for greater good, for communities, for the planet, and for our employees. And frankly, I believe everyone is going in this direction. Purpose, but beyond words, going into action. I can go on about that, frankly. I can tell you I'm quite proud about how Wipro is constantly reducing its climate footprint, increasing its social footprint. I've always assumed, Noshir, that a company where 67% of the economic interest is irrevocably pledged to a foundation that is dedicated to social improvements, particularly in education, health, and youth empowerment, is incredible. So 3 points again to keep in mind, innovation, radical thinking, and sense of purpose.
Yes, absolutely. And Thierry, I think, for many of us who've lived and worked in India for many years, we couldn't be prouder or more thankful for what the Azim Premji Foundation and others are doing. I mean, in this area, it's incredible, right? I think you said it exactly right. I wanted to pick up on each of those changes, which are actually fascinating. And you started with this, the digital acceleration is actually leading to this fundamental business model, business mindset shift, right? And it's not so much about technology, but how you're changing fundamentally the way you do business. I mean, one of the things at least we are seeing is this enormous rise of ecosystems. And we've at least grown, at least in my part of the world, in our tech practice, we've always grown comfortable to having a senior partner or a client executive or whatever interface with a client. And that one-to-one combination, interaction is changing to many and many-to-one combinations, right? Where you have ecosystems, you have the hyperscalers, you have the SaaS companies on one side, you have your own internal teams, many of whom have to actually come together and actually deliver a service. So how do you see these ecosystems that are evolving change the way Wipro does business, the way you approach your customers in the future?
Yeah, Noshir, large companies are bigger, okay? And, despite so, there is a need for simplification. And I often believe that our job is to drive a certain level of simplification, bring simplification. So to this topic of the ecosystem, it's one of my favorite topics because I have seen the, Noshir, I've been in this industry for 28 years now. I have seen a real evolution in the way we are operating as what you call an ecosystem. I don't think we were talking about an ecosystem 10 years ago. What we are seeing now is a coming together of business and technology. And as I said earlier about digital transformation, solving business problems, not technology problems. Technology is the problem solver here, the enabler, not the end of it. So industry expertise assume greater significance here. But so does verticalization in my mind, verticalization of spends. So it's critical because clients are looking for, and I hear it in my interaction with them, they are looking for a coming together business ask and technology needs. We're no longer talking just to the CIO or to the CEO, but to the CEO, to the CIO, to the CDOs, to the CHROs, to the head of ESG, of manufacturing, and so on. So the partner ecosystem becomes invaluable. As we look at to broad-based innovation and offer rapid, relevant transformation to our clients, partners, they bring products, solution that form part of the overall solution we offer to clients. So together with our partners, including many startups, big, small, we are helping address the complexity of ecosystem. And we are, and that is my simple definition of the role Wipro wants to play. We are orchestrating new growth areas for our clients. We see, tremendous opportunity in our partnerships with companies like AWS, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, specifically in the areas of cloud-led modernization, AI, machine learning, industry and complex specific digital solutions, cloud-native architecture. We see fantastic traction with our partners. But all of this needs commitment, flexibility, investment. And that's what we are doing, massively committing to this partnership in a very strategic way, committing to it every day. That is the need for flexibility and investing, putting a lot of money into it. Today, I tell you very transparently, Noshir, 38% of our current order book is with our key alliance partners. My view, In 2 years from now, it will be over 50% of our order book, right? So that shows definitely the strength of our relationship, the speed of the growth that we get together. And you know, in the nature of the way we are working as an orchestrator with this ecosystem, we are building stronger relationship that really goes to true partnership. You know, we no longer work alongside each other, we work together. And our clients expect that from us.
Wow, that is a stunning statistic. I mean, 38% of an incoming order book, you know, in partnership with all your partners is an incredible move. It certainly is ahead of at least what I thought most in the industry would be. I was, as I said in my preamble, I was thinking of, you know, 30 to 50% in the next 3 to 4 years, and you certainly are way ahead of that. And congratulations. I mean, that's an amazing number. I wanted to actually then move to this. You mentioned simplicity driving innovation, and it's a very powerful thought, right? Because actually to make things simple is actually very difficult, as most of us know who've tried to do that. If you just talk about what are you doing to drive up the metabolic rate of innovation within Wipro?
Excellent question, Noshir. So frankly, one, I would say the Wipro you see today is one that is in many ways fundamentally different, okay? We are being bold about who we are, what we can offer, and how. We talked about being an orchestrator. You see the role of a system integrator, to me, has fundamentally transformed over the last few years, right? Wipro recognize it, what it must become to lead this market. We must become the value orchestrators for our clients. You see, our clients work with multiple companies. They invest more and more in technology. They bring more and more component of technology. You know, they need someone to orchestrate, but they need us to drive value. And that is also an important statement. The value orchestrator does not come without innovation. We are orchestrator for our clients, strategic player that plays a pivotal role in delivering values through holistic solutions, requires innovation because it combines technology, industry expertise, and ecosystem. And always, you know, thinking about starting from the business challenge, starting from the client. You know, I think it's another fundamental change. It's not anymore about what we have that we can sell. It's about what are the challenges our clients have, or what our challenges are the clients of our clients have, and how can technology address those issues. So we are the partner that brings a business-led approach to solving the most complex and significant problems for our clients. We are looking at business problems, not just technology problems, and focusing on outcomes and experience. We are fostering the culture of radical thinking. We are investing in our innovation. We are allowing us and our team to fail, because that's absolutely necessary when you want to develop a culture of innovation. And that is a significant aspect of our development, Noshir.
That's actually one of the most difficult things, at least if I can speak for myself, I've struggled with this notion of allowing people to fail, right? And failing with respect or failing fast, however you want to call this. Any particular ideas or thoughts for the many entrepreneurs out there, Thierry, that are looking to you as an icon of the industry and as a leader of 27 years on what advice would you give them in terms of this notion of being willing to accept failure?
Yeah, absolutely, Noshir. Every time I think about this topic, because I think it's critical in our industry, you see the risk, especially today, with the types of growth that we see in the market. The risk for us would be to stay comfortable where we are milk the cow, if you like, continue to get, the growth we are seeing, and not really challenging ourselves, not getting us ready for what's coming next. And so you need to constantly challenge yourself, hence the radical thinking that is constantly required. For me, it starts with having ambition, being bold. Noshir, if you're not ambitious, if you're not bold, you're not going to take risk. If you're not taking risk, you're surely not going to fail. Interestingly enough, the more ambitious you get, the more you must be ready to accept the fact that you may fail. Because if you are not fostering a climate of, creativity, radical thinking, people will stay in their swim lane. They will never reflect on anything that is different and be creative. And so for me, it is not easy to implement every day because you obviously don't want to fail. You want to succeed in everything you do. But the reality is that you need to allow, your team to try things. But to allow them to try things, you must give them the feeling that it's going to be okay to fail as long as they are very ambitious in everything they do. And that is the mindset that is required. That's what we are embracing at Wipro today across the organization.
Fantastic. I want to actually maybe move to my last question on these topics, which is you spoke about solving the business problems of our customers and our customers' customers. And one of the business problems, and if I might add, the existential problems for our society and our world as we know it, is actually climate change and sustainability. And I know technology and Wipro in particular has done a number of things on that topic to help clients and so on. Would you like to talk for a few minutes just on how you see the path and sustainability and what Wipro is doing to make a difference on this existential problem?
I think it's difficult today to come back to a client and reflect on business challenges without considering the social and the environmental aspects of, our solutions. They expect from us that not only we come with solutions that really consider those aspects, but also we help them address their own challenges, right? What I see is very clear. 10 years ago, you were a IT provider of services. You were given, technical SLAs to respect. And as long as you were delivering the solution that, the client was expecting from you, you had done your job. Now, it is expected to be well received by their clients. So the client experience is critical. It goes well beyond the technical aspect of the solution you develop. And so you need to consider the reality of the environment from a social and from an environmental aspect. It's our responsibility. It's very clear that, in our organization, we believe that we are not only here to address business challenges, we are here to address society challenges, right? The technology must be a driver to address issues that companies have, but should never be, detrimental to, the social aspects or to the environment. And in every offer that we are doing, we have that mindset and we have this well in mind. We are discussing, we are engaging with our clients on those aspects as well. And it's, pretty systematic, Noshir, in our discussions with CXOs of our, across industries.
Fantastic. I think we're close to time, Thierry, and I must say, the one thing I really hope, as you spoke about this time frame of companies on the S&P 500, shortening to or halving to about 12 years now. I've got to say that, McKinsey's centenary is coming up in the next 4 years, 5 years. We're hopefully going to celebrate our 100th year. I know, and I know the rest of, the industry hopes that Wipro and the foundation will be here to celebrate even more than their centenary, well into the future. But thank you so much for being here and being such a wonderful and eloquent speaker on such a wide range of topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Noshir. Have a wonderful day.
Wonderful. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Shweta. Shweta, thank you for a lovely session, and here's back to you.
Okay, that was truly special, listening to these business leaders and getting into their minds a little bit. Thank you, Noshir, for this brilliant session. 2 brilliant leaders. The changes that will come about in the next decade is going to be radical for sure. And the context of how a company's growth is directly dependent on this kind of exposure, training, reskilling, and engagement that the employees have in the company.